Dr. Bill, platform is yours.
Welcome, everybody. We're glad to be here to support Siddique's team all across Pakistan and places beyond, who knows? So I'm glad to help you guys see a little bit more insights from my training, my background. I've been a coach and a professional lecturer for 35, 40 years, and I've taught people leadership, communication, management. As a dentist, I have a small team that I developed and grew my business to over $5 million a year. And I ran that business, for the last 45 years. So I've got a lot of training in certain areas. I can share with you some of the things that made us successful. So I'm going to give you one today that is about consistency. A lot of people had questions related to that. So let me share my screen, and we're going to start with trying to put this together. And let's see, where do I have that? There we go. Still trying to find my picture here. Where is it? There it is. I lost you underneath. All right, we have it. You see that okay?
Yes, it is.
Consistency, applications to teams. So we're going to cover, there's a book I read called Consistency is the New Currency. Consistency is the new currency. And it's to help us decide. I want to move that. So we can talk about tomorrow and team dynamics and just getting started. That's the three components of what we'll talk about today. I want to make this easier to see. Okay. So about tomorrow. Tomorrow is never going to get here. That's the thing. So we don't want you to buy into the lie that I'll do it tomorrow, I'll get there tomorrow, I will succeed tomorrow. I'm going to put all my hopes in tomorrow. If you think that way, then there's a lot of stumbling blocks that'll come about that will block you from having exactly what you want in the future. And we know that tomorrow is an ever receding mirage. It never arrives. That means if you put your thoughts on tomorrow, you're going to be totally disappointed on a regular basis. And so we want to develop the concept of only today mindset that leads to consistency of action today. A lot of people had a problem with motivation in the questions that I saw. A lot of people had problems with sticking to what they needed to do. They were distracted by other things. And with this philosophy of consistency is the new currency, you're going to be able to overcome many of these obstacles that you faced. So the secret of success is taking daily action specifically applied to what's important, what's in front of you. We talked a bit last time about 80% of your people being the ones who don't accomplish as much. And 20% seem to be the ones that accomplish the most. If you're a manager and you're in charge of people in a group, then you're going to have this same ratio, 90-10, 80-20. Few people get most done. Most people don't get a lot done. And so there's a scale. Well, the reason is they're all wired differently. Each of us is not the same. So it's not good or bad to be in either group. But if you want to have high achievers on your team, then you'll be enjoying this presentation. But also, if you're a manager, you're going to find a way to bring all the people along, not just the high achievers. If you talk about the 20% being the high achievers, they get things done without a lot of instruction, without a lot of follow-up. Well, you're going to be able to make the rest of your team be just as valuable with the tools you're going to get today. And that's the key. If you're a manager and you can unlock the potential of your entire team instead of pretty much relying on the top 10, 20% to do the majority of the work for success, then you become a bigger success because you manage better. Have you heard about the marshmallow test?
Yeah.
There was a psychological test that was done where 3-year-olds were put on a table to sit, and in front of them, there was a marshmallow. And the instructions to the little child were this: if you can sit here and wait for 3 minutes while that marshmallow sits there in front of you and not eat it, then after 3 minutes, you'll get another marshmallow. So they did the test and they ran the test, and they found that about 80% of the children could not wait 3 minutes before they ate the marshmallow. About 20% could wait, and they got 2 marshmallows at the end. So that test kind of showed that there were 2 types of individuals who represent the world. 3-year-olds are basically motivated by instant gratification, or what we call delayed gratification. So the ones who waited, they displayed instant gratification was not what ruled their actions. They could put into effect delayed gratifications, getting the result after a period of delay, of pressure, of desire, but delayed to the time where it was going to be 3 minutes, right? The instant gratification group that ate the marshmallow, well, they needed to be satisfied right now. They couldn't wait. They didn't value that they would get more later. They wanted something now because it was greater motivator than was the desire to have more marshmallows later. They wanted it now. So these researchers found that we are hardwired by age 5 or younger to be either a marshmallow eater or a marshmallow waiter. In other words, we can delay our gratification, about 20% of us, and about 80% of us rather have our marshmallow right now. And that's named the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle was what we identified last time as the 80-20 rule. 80% failed to have and they had a hard time succeeding in life because life is a marshmallow. 20% are able to delay gratification. Their life is many marshmallows. Think about that. How does that fit for you? Do you have a lot of marshmallows because you wait and you get things done? You stick to the plan. You don't give up. You persevere. Well, if you're highly successful, it probably means you can accept delayed gratification. So what we would tell you is this: consistency matters. The 20%ers who do what's needed to be done do it consistently. The 80%ers know what needs to be done. They know how to do it because they've been taught, but their efforts are hit or miss, erratic, or irregular. That means they're inconsistent. So that's the truth, and that's how you're hardwired. So if you understand that's in your DNA, if it's in your upbringing, your culture, I don't know as much about Pakistani culture, but I do know American culture, and I do know that these things are true here too. That a lot of people are consistent and can display delayed gratification to get their job done, but others cannot. And so they continually just go from job to job looking for that instant gratification. What can I get today? What can I get, a few dollars more per hour? Can I get over here where I'm more comfortable? I don't have to work with people I don't like as much. So they jump around and they delay their gratification of having success because they're always looking for something different or better or more. Now, here's the question. How can leaders get their teams to be more consistent? What if, as a leader, a manager, you could take everybody on your team, if you had 10 people on the team, you'd have the top 2 able to pretty much perform whatever you tell them to perform, and they would get it done no matter how long it took. They would persevere, follow the rules, do the job. The 80% kind of do partly what you want, but not all. How do you get those people to be motivated? And that's what the lesson is today. How do you get them to have self-discipline? That's the manager's quandary. How to make the whole team valuable, not just some. So the first step is this. You have to get them to grasp the idea and understand whether they're fitting in the category of delayed gratification. You have to understand that as a manager. And then if they're in the group and they're instant gratification type people, you've got to design systems so that they can succeed. And that's the whole key for managers, is to design systems for your team to succeed, each individual. So you can't have the same system for the entire group. You've got to tailor it to meet the needs of really 2 groups. And the 2 groups I'm talking about. Now, the second step is to take action consistently. If you're in the group, you've got to have some kind of a reason to take an action that's going to lead you to the final goal. But what we want you to do in the team is we want you to set up, as a manager, we want you to set up a team dynamic where you harness the power of instant gratification for that 80% of the people who you're dealing with, which is the majority by far. So, key process indicators, key performance indicators, right? 20%ers like KPI, the smarter goal systems and reward systems, because they can see the end result in their mind and they can totally work towards that goal without you having to look over their shoulder so much, follow up on them so much. But the 80%ers, they cannot do that. So they like smaller, shorter tasks with directional focus. That means you have to give them instruction and you have to look at each step along the way and say, that was done. Let's move to the next one. And you can't give the 80%ers everything in the world to do at one time and expect them to get it done, because they're overwhelmed with the thought of, I've got to do all that. I'll never do it. I'll quit. That's their thinking. But if you give them focus, you know what is? Is focusing bigger, faster, or healthier. It's got to be winning for them. If they can make a little faster or a little healthier, then they're going to win. So that the means taking one step more towards the goal. So goal simply asks for you to take a daily step in the direction of the desire. Now, the Navy SEALs in America had a particular mindset of the participants. Every day they would get 1% better. And over a period of time, 100 days, they were 100% better. They always increased their abilities 1% a day. Always better, never worse, always better. So that's the SEAL test. And that's the mindset that we want everybody to have in a team. So you have to work on motivation, because it's a feeling and it's pretty unreliable. If you just say, okay, rah, rah, we're going to do this, everybody get on board. That kind of motivation falls flat and doesn't move people forward. So momentum is more important than motivation. It's a force that generates its own motivation. And so, you know what inertia is? Inertia is something that once you get it going, you can't stop it. And so when you have momentum, inertia, then the accumulated mass is consistent, it's focused, and it's got purposeful action. So we want to create momentum. That's the goal. How do you do that? Well, you have to overcome the self-talk, the negative thinking. And, you know, Zig Ziglar used to say, you want to get a checkup from the neck up, and you want to get rid of the stinking thinking. Thinking is an important part of this whole thing. One of the ways that we've always taught people is to break things down into pieces and get a little bit done at a time, which is like the idea of chunking. Chunking is doing one small piece and then going to the next small piece. And every time you succeed in finishing that one piece, you have a mini celebration. And a mini celebration is something that is the motivating factor, and it builds momentum if you never break the chain. And so one of the techniques we want to use is a calendar where we mark down each day our successes. And so in a calendar, if you put X's next to each other that touch each other, eventually what you see, it looks like is a chain. And so every day you have an X on your calendar that you accomplished that goal. And then the next day you have another X that touches, and that next day another X. And so that is called the consistency chain. And if every day has a win in it, then even the 80% people can have a win. They can get more accomplished, just like the 20%ers. So the idea here is to just start your consistency chain, put an X on the calendar when you achieve your goal, your small goal, and then add up a lot of small goals to get to be big goals. We call it putting your ducks in a row. When you've got X's across the calendar, your ducks are in a row. You don't have to achieve perfection, but you do want to shoot for it. We really want to achieve excellence, because perfection is very difficult. Excellence is easy. Propulsion. You got to have something pushing you forward. You know, a duck looks like it's sitting on the water, just kind of peacefully idling along when it's going through the water. But what you don't see below the water is those little feet with the webs paddling, paddle, 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 paddle. A duck under propulsion looks at peace. And that's the way you want to be. You want to be doing those little X marks on the calendar every day, little success, and you want to go steadily toward the goal. It looks like it's easy to everybody outside, but you know you're pedaling pretty hard. Duck herding for managers is a very low-paying career. That saying means that, you know, if you're always overlooking everybody's shoulder and micromanaging and trying to keep up with people who are not directed well, who don't have the many goals set, and the idea of the Pareto principle being honored, that 20% of people get the job done and 80% don't do much. If you don't understand that and you don't make allowances for that, then your career will be a duck herding career, and you'll stay in a fairly low paying job all your career, because you'll never get anything done with a team that never is managed well. So that's just a word to the managers out there. So just get started. When we do what's possible, the implausible suddenly becomes inevitable. You like that? That is by the authors of Consistency is a New Currency. When you do what's possible, the implausible suddenly becomes inevitable. So here's how you start. The consistency chain builds habits. You start with a 3-day plan. You don't have to go for a year, 5-year plan. You don't have to even go with a month. You just do a 3-day plan. You decide and act. you begin, you build a chain, 1 day, 2 day, you don't break the chain, 3 day, you don't break the chain. And when you build a chain of 3 days, what do? You build it again, you start again. You track your progress, and before long, 3 days becomes 6 days, becomes 9 days. And before you know it, it's a month. The consistency chain is a key of small wins every day, connected. Use that Navy SEAL wisdom, 1% improvement per day. And, it's a 24/7 job. You can sleep a few hours, sure, but be consistent on a 24/7 basis with your sleep planned in there. Willpower is finite. We don't have the ability to have endless willpower, so we do need help. We do need systems in place. We need to replace our traditional goals, if we're in the 80%, particularly with ER directions. That means we get better, faster, healthier with small increments, 1% increments. Change will break. Just reestablish them if you break one. Be accountable to somebody and become a team overall as an accountable team. All right, that is the basic presentation, and I want to show you the book that I mentioned last time. I said habits are formed by excellent understanding of how habits are created. So this book is by Charles Duhigg, Duhigg, Charles Duhigg. Let's see. Can't get that to show up. Why not? There it is. Charles Duhigg, is that name? Habits. Anyway, get that at Amazon if you want. Another book I thought would be useful for some of you guys is the Guerrilla Marketing Series. And I trained with J. Conrad Levinson as a guerrilla marketing instructor. And he has a whole bunch of co-writers that work with him when he was alive. He passed on a couple of years ago. But basically, J. Conrad Levinson has a whole series of books. And this one's about guerrilla marketing for a bulletproof career. A lot of you guys are looking for a career. So I would recommend reading, if you're into marketing especially. He's got a lot of information. I started over at age 48. I was pretty much broke at age 48 and started over and built my $5 million practice in 10 years. And so everybody's not done when they reach 40, that's for sure. And I'm not done yet. I'm 71. I'm going to probably do better between 70 and 90 than I did between 48 and 71. So the future is very bright right now for all of us. And with that, I'll take some questions. And if we can get that screen put up that you'd like the questions on, that'll be good. Please type the names of both books in the chat. I'll do that. While you're putting up that one, I'll put this one in the chat.
किस तरह? किस वक्त?
Power of Habit by I'll put the title of my book up. Have y'all seen my book title? The $10,000 a Day Dentist. I learned how to be able to create consistency And in our dental practice, I produced $10,000 a day every day for like 15 or 20 years. And I wrote a book about how we designed the perfect day to make that possible. So you might enjoy that because it's applicable across all of life, not just dental practice. Okay, that's the book. So what questions do we have? We've got 30 minutes, so perfect timing.
For the questions, I'm gonna share screen now.
Oh, look at those kids. All right.
Right now, we have only 4 questions. You can post your questions again and again. Previous questions we have, if you can reply, consistency is done. These few replies are still left if you want to reply. Otherwise, we will go to the new one.
Okay, let's go to the new ones first.
New is the first? Okay.
Yeah.
You can see here. I'm just gonna have a bigger screen for you. Yes, okay.
That's good. As a leader, in your opinion, why some people remain average achievers despite so much hard work and efforts? Well, a lot of it was answered in that last session. You may be DNA wired to be an instant gratification person, and you really don't strive. You don't thrive, rather, in the environment where you don't get enough rewards and you don't see things through to the end because maybe that's just not how you're wired. So you got to look at that and go, I understand what motivates me, how often and how do I like to be motivated? You know, there's a book about the 5 love languages, and it speaks about how you're supposed to address and connect to your spouse. You know, some people are more tuned in to different ways of being approached, and you develop a bond with the person you live with by how you communicate. And so the love languages is pretty much a book that speaks about what motivates you, whether it's, you know, gifts, speech, the way people talk to you. And that would be also applicable to business. How do you manage people as a manager? How do you relate to the type people in your group? Another is the DISC system of personality styles. What type personalities do they have? And the DISC, director, the inspired one, the one that's kind of happy all the time, the studious one, who's always like the bookkeeper, very numbers oriented and calculating, or the steady in the DISC system, which is more the get along with everybody. I don't want fighting and I don't want fussing. I just want to get along. So you need to know what kind of person you are. Your manager needs to understand that these personality and these love language styles exist. Because if you're in groups that don't understand these things, then group dynamics become strained. Managers tend to have expectations of people and manage them in a way that is overbearing if you're not spoken to in the way you mentally and your DNA lets you accept it. So that's 2 answers. Let's go to the next one. How do you make a successful business after repeated failures in business? Well, you better learn from your mistakes is number 1. I've had 2 dental practices, and my second one was 3-4 times better than my second one. So I learned from my mistakes. I learned what kind of people to hire. I learned that I needed a better location. I learned that I need to broaden my skills. And so whatever causes a business to fail, you need to learn from your failures. Sometimes you just make bad choices and don't pick a winning solution. One of the big winners that I look for is one that is always going to be in demand. You know, I want to join a business that's not going to be a fad. If something's a fad, it sells for a year or two, and then it goes out of style, and then you're starting over. So that's one thing. Plus, I would not actually. Somebody said to share the question again. How do you make a successful business after repeated failures in business? That's the question we're talking about right now. Learn from your mistakes is number one. Stick to what works. It's what's in demand is part two. If you are on the leading edge and you're trying something new, it may not be popular and it may not go over. And so that's the thing about, you're in more danger if you go out on a limb. I invested in a lot of IPOs early on when I was in business. I had some profits, so I had extra money. So I invested in initial public offering startups, and every one of them never returned anything on investment. I got nothing in return. So I threw away a lot of money. Those were the failures I had when I looked to get in on something brand new. And so you got to be very careful joining something brand new. You really have to do more research and understand that those who come in late on something that's brand new usually are not going to win. But it's not always true. What does gratification and what does delayed gratification mean? Okay, I want it now means you have the need to be satisfied right now. That is what gratification is. You can't wait for it to be fully cooked. You'd rather eat something before it's done. You're hungry. You know, delayed gratification means I'll wait for the cook to put it on the table rather than going in the kitchen and stealing some out of the pot while it's still cooking. Delayed gratification means you may be hungry. You're going to wait for the cook to serve it to you at the table. Does that make sense? What to do if you are not getting the desired results, even after continuous efforts and persistence? For how long? We should be persistent in a project and then leave it if we're not getting the results from it. Is there any standard time for this? Well, it all depends on the goal. It depends on the steps you got to go through. There is a time period where it's probably appropriate to give up on something that's not coming through. But you got to evaluate more than just the time. It's not just time. It's who you're working with. What are their goals? How do they support you during the time? Do they train you properly? Do you have the tools, the means to do the job? Or is there too much expectation to just get it done without any instruction? So having proper management, proper leadership is just as important as what you're doing yourself. And is it achievable? That's one of the things about setting SMART goals, is that all those things should be identified up front when you start, when you set goals. Is it achievable? Is it good for all concerned? Is it a timely goal that can be reached? So all these things should be set forth before you start. Next one is agreed. Chunking of work is a start of success. What will be done when you feel stuck during a mission? So you've got a set of tasks to do to get to the end result. What do you do if you're stuck? Well, first of all, you ask somebody who knows more than you do, what should I do? Ask the question and then get the most appropriate answer. There are people that should be in that position as help for you, if you don't know something. If you can move forward by going in a different direction, you can go up, over, around, and through a problem. You can bull your way through it. You can avoid it by going around it. You can think better and go over it, or you can work harder and dig deep and go under it and go around it that way. So obstacles are just things that you have to work through. If you have the mission, you have the goal, you can always get unstuck for the most part. Sir, your voice and transcript is not matching during the screen share. I think that's because there's a delay and it's actually created while I talk. It's not there beforehand, but by having a particular set of text that I'm reading. No, this is created by artificial intelligence as I talk. So there's no way that I know what it's saying and how it matches. It's probably delayed by a few seconds as it manipulates the voice into text in the artificial intelligence. But thank you for letting me know. How to replace bad habits with good habits. Well, the book is, this thick, and I've only got a few minutes. So I would say understanding what creates a habit, understanding how you can change a habit. It takes time and effort to change a habit. And so what I would do is read the book and follow the instructions. And I can't tell you anything better than that. Next is consistency is a major problem. If someone cannot find his passion until age 40, are you talking about me? And try different jobs, even has a MBBS and something like a specialist in medical while working in the US, Canada, and other European countries, how can you stay focused and get consistency? That does sound like a lot like me. Let me tell you about my consistency. I've always been consistent in my dental job because it earns me the money to do the other things that I like to do as hobbies. And so I never wavered in my consistency from my major training. But I had a lot of efforts that I did that I put in 10 years of consistency. And so I'm always telling people I have a 10-year attention span. So I can do anything for 10 years as long as I see a payoff in the end. And a lot of the things that I've done had small payoffs. And so I did them diligently for 4 or 5 years. And I started realizing after 3 or 4 years into this that, there may be a ceiling on it. And I kept doing it and I verified, yes, there's a ceiling. And I found that I got tired of doing what had ceilings. And so I decided I would change. And it took me about a year or two sometimes to get out of the situation into another one. Like a building I had that was too small. I had to move to a new building, build a new building. Like teaching a class for dentists that we taught every quarter. And I had to enroll the classes and teach the classes. And that took a lot of time and consistency to build it. And I ran it for 10 years and I got tired of teaching it because the management of the team got to be more headache than the value of teaching the classes. And so, there's certain things that you get tired of doing. And so that's kind of why I quit doing those things. And so over the years, just me personally, I can do things consistently for 10 years. And if they're not turning out and giving me a big enough reward, then I'll give up. And I know that's kind of an unusual length of time. 10 years is a long time. And so I'm one of those 20%ers, and maybe I'm a 5%er that can set a goal and be 10 years waiting for the result. I don't know. But I live long enough to do a lot of different things. And so that's one caveat to a long life. You can do a lot of things and just keep doing things that you like. in my dental training, I took 10 years to learn TMJ orthodontics and head and neck pain. I took 10 years to learn implantology. I took 10 years to learn aesthetics. And I started on sleep apnea training to treat sleep problems. And I didn't get 10 years in that one because it wasn't as rewarding. And I'm getting to the point where I don't want to learn more. And so things like that do happen. You know, you'll find you'll get into a job, a technique that you're learning that doesn't seem rewarding like the others. So you'll quit it sooner. And that's okay. To develop consistency, one must learn how to be persistent. What's my take on that is the next question. My persistence is high. One reason I'm persistent and consistent is because I don't particularly worry so much about what other people think. I'm not run by having to fit in with the crowd. I don't care to be politically correct. I don't care to follow the rules. I don't care to stay inside the box. I'd rather jump outside the box and play with those who are what I think are more free thinkers, more fun. And if you're stuck in the box having to please one person all the time because you're afraid of them, then you'll not be as consistent and persistent because they'll always knock you down. How do I achieve goals? Well, I write them down for one. I used to do in my office when I was building it bigger and bigger, I would use quarterly goals. And every quarter we would set new goals, and then I would break them down into SMART goals. And then I would take my managers and give them the same task. I would say, fill out quarterly goals based on my goals, and you and your area of interest in our company, put together your goals for your group. And then that manager would take and give that same form to the people in the group and say, make your personal goals in the company based on our department goals. And what are you going to do? And so everybody had goals for their specific areas, and all the goals had to support ultimately my goals. And it worked out very well that we grew quite rapidly based on departments and individuals having goals. How do you tackle clients and customers who waste your valuable time just asking questions and never come toward investing or buying plans and products? That's a good question, because I came up with a solution in our dental practice like that. I never gave consults, and I never gave estimates, and I never tried to close the cases. I got real good at presenting cases by interviewing people well, and then doing a thorough examination, evaluation of their problem. And by them seeing me do a thorough examination, they realized that I knew what I was doing. And then I delegated the closing of the cases, of the sales, and explaining the details of what I was going to do. I delegated that to my staff. And so I never had to answer questions. I never had to sell. I never had to close people. I never had to explain insurance. I never had to explain financial plans. And so you can find that a division of the work can happen. And I assumed as I went in to treat every patient that they had already there because they believed in me. They already believed that I had the best solution for them. And so I had 100% belief that everybody was going to buy everything I offered them. So it starts with mindset, and then it goes beyond that to your team believing the same thing. And our ratio of success was very high. Not everybody sells 100% of what you ask them to buy in any business, but I had that feeling that that's what people would do. And it turned out I was much more successful than most of my competitors because they always tended to do it the other way. That would be the main person doing all the talking, all the answering of the questions. So what you need to do is delegate. Next question is, when is a good time to present? Then why do we set long-term goals? When it's good to be in the present, then why do we set long-term goals? Well, you operate in the present toward long-term goals, but you have to only get what you can get done today. In other words, you can't get everything done one day, and you shouldn't wait till tomorrow to get what you can get done today. So the whole idea is you have to have a today mindset, but you have to have somewhere you're going. You know, if you're going to drive all the way to Karachi and you're starting on the other side of the country, you need a map. You need a goal. May take you a while, and you need to have the roads in mind. And if you don't have an idea that there's a gas station along the way, your car's going to run out of gas. So you have to be prepared for all the things that are going to happen, knowing where to go and get the materials to get the job done. So that's just me. You have to always have long-term goals, but the team members don't have to be bought into long-term goals near as much as the managers, the leaders. The team members need to have a series of goals to get through the day. And if you can get the 80% of people having a series of small goals to get through the day, then tomorrow's another day, and they can have another series of goals for tomorrow when that day becomes today. That's the thing. Next question. Would I be kind enough to explain the ER strategy to success? Yeah, ER just means better. The last, you know, good, better, best. Better means it's better than good. Better means ER added to the end of any word means one little bit better, one little amount more. So the ER is just a couple of letters on the end of a word in English, anyway, to say, I'm going to get 1% better at doing something. So maybe if I sold $5 worth of goods today, tomorrow I'd sell $5.25 worth of goods. And the next day I would set a goal to sell $6 worth of goods. And the next day I want to sell $6.25 worth of goods. So you're trying to move up every day in doing something better. And so the ER is an English contraction of get better every day. I hope that makes sense. You know, in a foreign language, I know that could be tricky because ER doesn't mean anything in some languages. But in English, ER means one step better. Better, you know, good, better, best, fast, faster, fastest, if that makes sense. Next question, how do we be consistent at any level when we are watching daily a new, different opportunity? Yeah, you can be overwhelmed by too many opportunities. You know, it's like rabbit trails and silver objects, shiny objects. You can be distracted by things that look better over there. So you need to pick out the thing you're going to do and stick to it and go from there to the next thing only when it's time. You don't want to spread yourself too thin. Those who have high capacity to spread themselves out, still, they might call it multitasking, but they're only really doing one thing at a time, and they're interfacing between the different projects fast. But you're still only operating one task at a time. Now, when you have delegation in teams, you can delegate to the teams to do things, and you can have things going on in your company, multiple places, multiple times and places. But you yourself, as the manager, can only be doing one thing at a time. Next question is how to convince a skeptical mind customer. Is it easy to convince a skeptical mind friend than convincing a stranger to buy your product? Well, you know, that all depends on the friend, and I don't think friends and strangers are really any different. You just know the friend, but they're the same type people. I have relatives that don't believe anything I tell them. They don't think I know enough to do anything valuable to help them. But I obviously can help a lot of people because I run a $5 million business for many years. I have 2 best-selling books that are international bestsellers. Somebody's buying the dang books. Somebody believes in me to let me work on them. Somebody hires me to make speeches. So, you know, my friends that don't believe in me, they are not the ones that are going to buy from me. So there's going to be skeptics in every area of your life. You know, they're going to be friends, family, and strangers. How do you convince them? I think the way I usually convince people is with social proof. I try to develop what's called expert status and put that on display. In my office, at the dental office, I would always put pictures up of what I've done. I would have magazine covers with me on it. And that would be social proof that you can put on the wall, and they can walk around the office and look and go, he's on the cover of this magazine. That must mean something to somebody. So there's certain people who are moved by social proof. Pictures, show and tell, titles, certificates, degrees, those things make a difference to certain people. Expert status is the same thing. You know, if you're a professional and you've got degrees and associate awards, you can put those on the wall and people will notice them. They'll trust you more. That means they'll say yes faster when they see that you're an expert in what you do. So we're right at about 2 or 3 minutes from the end. So we had a good session. Any last comments that anyone would like to make? We will entertain those, and I'll turn it over to you guys.
Anyone have any question or any comment he wants to make? Please raise your hand. Oh. Please raise your hand if
Samar, what is your thought about consistency as currency?
I was just about to ask them and I just raised it. We have Iram Fawad. Iram, kindly unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, sir. It is really something that really feeds my brain. I am so excited to get more and more. So thank you so much for being there. And I keep on asking questions because I'm that kind of a person. So
Iram,
yeah,
are those
thank
all
you
your
so
questions? Were those all your questions, Iram?
No, not at all. But I just asked you the ER solution. So what is the meaning of ER?
So that you could be smarter.
Yes.
Yes. That's the whole reason to do this, is to get 1 point smarter every day. You guys are amazing.
Okay.
You're spending your time learning, and I appreciate that. And thanks for all the attendance. A lot of good folks here. 79 people stayed with us. The crowd grew bigger and bigger, so I'm happy, and I hope my speech was not too slow or too fast or too what we call Southern. My accent in America is called Southern. So I hope it's been okay for you to understand.
That's okay for me, sir.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah.
Sleep well.
Take care. Okay, everyone. I'm gonna share a sheet with you. और उसके अंदर okay fine, now he has gone. मैं आप लोगों के साथ एक शीट क्वेश्चन आंसर शीट शेयर करने लगी हूँ और उस क्वेश्चन आंसर्स के अंदर मैं आपके साथ लिंक शेयर करूंगी. लेट मी शेयर इट विद यू कि क्या करने वाली हूँ. आई हैव जस्ट 1 मिनट लेफ्ट. क्वेश्चन आंसर शीट सबके पास है. सॉरी, ये क्वेश्चंस वाली जो शीट है जिसमें असेसमेंट्स आते हैं वो सबके पास है. मैं इसका लिंक दोबारा आप लोगों के साथ शेयर कर रही हूँ. Ctrl+C. काइंडली इसको सब एक्सेस करें. अभी चैट बॉक्स में मैंने डाल दी है. शीट मैंने चैट बॉक्स में डाल दी है. रुक जाए, पहले ओपन हो लेने दे मेरे पास। क्वेश्चन आंसर शीट में जो आपके पास क्वेश्चन आंसर शीट होती है, इसके रो नंबर, भाई रुक जाए, लिंक अपने पास रख लें, मुझे खोल तो लेने दे। 440 एंड 450 एंड 451 पे मैं होमवर्क जो आपका असेसमेंट है उसके लिंक शेयर कर रही हूँ। 20 मिनट्स का टाइम है। 11:20 पे मैं दोनों को अनलिंक कर दूंगी। बल्कि अभी रुक जा, लेट मी पेस्ट इट देयर, फर्स्ट, होल्ड ऑन। सबाहत, होमवर्क का लिंक जो है आप 49 पे पेस्ट कर दें।
मैम 11 o'clock हो चुके हैं।
बस दे रही हूँ।
नेक्स्ट मीटिंग
मैडम सुनिए, अभी वो इंटरव्यू भी है मेरा।
सॉरी,
टाइम नाउ, मेरे 11 बजे क्लाइंट ने आना है, तो आई एम गोइंग टू देयर 11 to 12।
450 और 451 पे मैंने असेसमेंट्स के लिंक रखे हैं। 11:01 हो गए हैं और 20 मिनट का टाइम है। 20 मिनट के बाद ये इसको मैं फिनिश कर दूंगी। ये मैंने टाइमर यहीं पे भी सामने ऑन कर लिया है।
अभी शीट कौन सी है?
समर बाजी,
क्वेश्चन आंसर अटेंडेंस वाली। जी हाँ जी।
इसमें एक फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी रखें, क्योंकि ये जो नेक्स्ट अभी इरफान भाई बता रहे थे ना, ये अनस्टॉपेबल वाले प्रोजेक्ट पर हैं और इन्होंने आगे वो क्लाइंट के साथ अपॉइंटमेंट है ना इनकी, तो अब इनके लिए क्या फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है इसमें?
इरफान भाई आप अभी बना लें, जिसकी अभी मीटिंग है वो ना ले, उनको हम आगे किसी जगह पे एडजस्ट कर देंगे। ये 2 शीट्स मैंने रखती है यहाँ पर। 20 मिनट्स का टाइम है। सबाहत, होमवर्क का लिंक आप यहाँ रख दें प्लीज। ओके फाइन, आई एम गोइंग नाउ। आपको
मुझे
शीट
सर कंफर्म, दोबारा कंफर्म प्लीज कर दें। मैं सॉरी आपको इंटरप्ट कर रहा हूँ। ये जो सब शीट्स नीचे ओपन हुई, इसमें से कौन सी वाली है? इंडेक्स, अटेंडेंस शीट या क्वेश्चन शीट?
क्वेश्चन शीट राइट है, दिख रही है आपको क्वेश्चन शीट।
ओके।
और ये इसके लिंक्स हैं। प्लीज, मेरी भी मीटिंग 2 मिनट ऊपर हो गई, प्लीज आई हैव टू गो। सबाहत आपको यहाँ पर रख के दे रही है होमवर्क। सबाहत काइंडली आप यहाँ पर पेस्ट कर दें। 449 पे होमवर्क कर दें।
मैम मैं
ये ओपन नहीं हो रहे, कह रहे हैं ड्यू टू हेवी ट्रैफिक एक्सेस इज डिनाइड।
जिस चीज से ले लिए वो यहाँ से चले जाएं। जिस चीज से ले लिए वो शीट को खाली कर दें। ओके फाइन, मैं ये चैट बॉक्स में भी शेयर कर रही हूँ। ये मैं चैट बॉक्स में भी दोनों शेयर कर दिए। चैट बॉक्स में भी दोनों शेयर कर दिए। ओके फाइन।
मैम इसमें समझ में नहीं आ रहा ये कौन सी रो में है।
दिख रहा है 450 एंड 451।
बोलो
450 एंड 451।
ओके 450 एंड 450
भी है, चैट बॉक्स में भी है।